Welcome to Her Own Boss, the podcast created by recent graduates to help you find your inner entrepreneur. Her Own Boss is created by Anissa, Ben, Sarah, Megan, Lucy, and me, Nikki. Hey everyone, this is your host Nikki, and today I'm joined again by Maddie Astle, a PR account executive and the brains behind Mind the Gap Graduates, a blog created to help recent graduates and young adults settle into life after education. Maddie is here today to help us figure out how to forge our own career path, and she shares her top tips for finding a job that isn't related to your degree. Hope you enjoy! This minisode is sponsored by Barclays Eagle Labs. Eagle Labs are the home of UK startups, providing the mentoring, training, and co-working spaces needed to help innovators and businesses thrive. Hey Maddie.
Hi, Nikki, you alright?
Yeah, good, thank you. How are you doing?
Good, yeah, I'm not bad, thank you.
Awesome. We're really excited to have you on the podcast today. And something we want to talk about is how to kind of set your own career path or choose your own career path. So myself and then the rest of the team who make the podcast, a lot of us have had a similar experience where we've studied one thing at uni and then gone into a slightly different career. So for example, I studied psychology and I now work in financial services. And I think it's becoming more and more common that people will do a degree that's not necessarily related to their future job. So I just wanted to maybe ask you what your experience has been like. Did you kind of follow a set career path from uni, or are you kind of figuring it out as you go along?
So yeah, I'm like you, and I'm kind of figuring it out as I go along. I studied criminology at uni, and I now work in public relations. And I think it's the case for a lot of people, really. Most people that I went to uni with, they study kind of these broad degrees like English or criminology. It does have a path to go into, like down the police and kind of security, but no one really has an end product that they come out of uni with, and it's like, this is the job that you're trained for now. So I think a lot of people are just kind of figuring out along the way.
Yeah, definitely. And do you think from kind of doing your blog and also having your social media platforms, do you see that there's maybe a misconception from grads or people in uni that they have to stick to their degree? Or do you feel like people know during their degree that they're probably going to end up in something else?
I think a lot of people know during their degree that they're going to end up in something else, but I think that's where a lot of the confusion comes from as a graduate, because they know that they don't want to do what their degree might typically put them into, but they don't know what it is that they actually want to do out of it. So I think a lot of people, they probably study one thing and think, oh, this is great, I'm definitely going to go into that field. But then by the time graduation rolls around, they don't want to go into it, and then they're a bit clueless for it. So that might end up with them going into a job in that field and not being happy, but not knowing how to transition out of it. But I think it's probably a lot more common than people think to not want to take your degree into a fully fledged career, but people just don't know how to kind of avoid that, let's say.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And I think there's that kind of anxiety around feeling like you're doing a degree that you don't want to have a job in, even if you're enjoying the degree. Like I really enjoyed my degree. I just knew I didn't want to be a psychologist. Combined with like that pressure to get a job straight out of uni is just really stressful. So hopefully this is where you can help us out a little bit. So if you have that moment of realization where your degree subject isn't what you want your career to be in, what can you kind of do to learn more about other careers?
So for me, I was in my third year of my criminology degree, and I was applying to lots of graduate schemes, and that spanned loads of different things. So it was public sector stuff, it was the police, it was prisons, but at the same time I did apply to quite a few banking graduate schemes as well, just because I wanted to see. It was kind of that situation where if I got offered a job, I'd have taken it because I've been so clueless.
Yeah.
But then after receiving a lot of rejections from places like the Civil Service Fast Stream and social work grad schemes and all of those types of things, I started to think, hang on, I don't even want to go into this. What am I doing? But it was just to kind of cure that what's next abyss that I had no idea what was going to fill it. So then I started a little business at uni to kind of fill my time in third year, which was painting plant pots.
I love that.
A little bit cliche, but I really enjoyed it. And from that, I realized that I really loved being creative, and creativity wasn't really something that I imagined to be offered in these big kind of public sector grad schemes like the police. I was probably never going to see myself implementing creative campaigns. Whereas when I was doing my
Yeah.
I realized that social media was this really, really vast tool, and there was so much to learn behind it. And although I wasn't doing any kind of business or marketing degree, it was something that I was really passionate about. And from that point, I started reading books about marketing and reading books about how to sell online. And I've taught myself so much from just that little business about how to make a website, how to sell things, how to do my finances from that as well. So that showed me that side hustles can really show you what it is that you might want to do that perhaps your degree or any other work experience might not, because you're not guided by someone else when you do that as well. You're showing yourself what you want to do, and no one's there to tell you you have to focus on this bit. You choose what it is that you focus on, and you choose what it is that you like. And I'd say for me, that's where I figured out that I wanted to go into something more creative than a kind of typical criminology path. So that's a main one for me. Start something in your spare time that you're really interested in. And it doesn't have to be starting something that's going to make you any money. I did this because it was a nice stress relief from my dissertation. But then that opened a lot more doors to show me how to find out if that was a field I was interested in. So I did a lot of research online. I was just teaching myself it. So that really showed that there was that passion there that I'd never had nurtured through school or my degree. So it is all about making good use of your spare time and reading books, researching online. Networking as well is a huge one. So LinkedIn, I think, had just gone exponentially bigger in young people's minds. People are always talking about being on that platform and how they've met people on it, how they've found different opportunities from it, and how they're building their own personal brand on there. And that way, opportunities can come to you that you'd never considered before. And you can look into the routes from that way as well. So I think mostly the tool is just being online to find out what you want to do, because you'll see so many resources on Google. Even if you just type it in, I want a career that's creative, then you're going to start seeing results and maybe see if those types of things align with what you want to do.
Yeah, I love that. Lots of the things you touched on there about starting with looking at what you already enjoy doing. It doesn't have to be that your career needs to like just make you money or just, be kind of impressive enough. Like you should be doing something that you enjoy doing. And then some of the other things you touched on there, like networking and personal brand on LinkedIn and side hustles as well, I think are all great. And we should be releasing minisodes on kind of all of those topics this season as well. So I think, definitely relevant and would really encourage people to kind of take a listen. But once you've kind of done that whole exercise and figured out what it is that you enjoy doing, well, I guess first of all, where can you look for jobs that are kind of outside of the typical careers fair, uni careers service?
So ones I do like to use LinkedIn Jobs. I do really like using Indeed because lots of the job listings are expired, but it's not got the bigger jobs that might have more of what graduates are looking for. So I like Target Jobs. I think Bright Network has some, Milk Round, Give a Grad a Go, LinkedIn Jobs. There's so many. And I've got a full list on my Instagram page as well. And you can just use your careers advice service at uni still. I think they post listings. I think they're probably a bit larger graduate recruiters, but they're kind of the middle ground between SMEs and startups and bigger graduate roles. So one thing that I always say is when you discover what it is that you might want to do or what you enjoy in your spare time, does that translate into a job as well? Because if you don't really enjoy it in your spare time, why would you put 40 hours a week into it as well? So if you do something like type in jobs that involve writing, jobs that involve helping people, jobs that involve being creative, anything like that, see what jobs come up, and then head to one of those job listing sites and type in the role that you found. And then on one of the listings, pick any of them, head to the job description and read what it is that typically you might be doing day to day. If you read it and think, that's amazing, can you imagine that you get paid for that? Sign me up. That's how you do that. But if you read it and think, I definitely don't want to do that, go back to the drawing board and find out what it is that you like instead of that. And then another thing that I always say to people is look at the experience too on those things. And if it's saying that you need to have taken a certain course or a certain degree and you haven't got it, it's not always the biggest barrier, because sometimes they say have a degree or 2 years work experience in this field. And the work experience is something that you can get without retraining or going back to uni. As well, if you do have that degree and you do have the work experience, but it's asking for courses in Photoshop, or it's asking that you know how to write a press release, or it's asking that you've worked with challenging behavior before in people, anything like that, go out and get that, because you can do that being sat at your laptop, do online courses and get accredited that way. So there are other little ways that you can boost your CV and find your career path along the way. And that's what I usually recommend to people.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think you're right in that there's so much available to us now online that, you don't necessarily need to take that step and do a panic master's or retrain with a full degree. There are online courses and other ways to get work experience, even if that's you creating your own work experience through a side hustle. And then I guess one final question I have on this is, once you've found that job and you think, okay, yeah, I want to do this, I feel like I've got at least the baseline work experience, how can you translate your previous work experience to that job, even if it's not in the same field?
I think that goes back again to comparing the job description of this new job that you'd like and the job description of the old job you'd like. I think I read on an Instagram page called Gradvance that throughout your time in a work placement or however long you've been in your role, you should always be making note of things that go well. So it shouldn't be when you decide you want to leave that you tweak your CV or you think, oh, what did I do in this job? All throughout it, if you've done something that's really worth putting on your CV or you've actually actioned something that's given you really good results, make note of it straight away, because then you have this full list of things that you could then condense down into something that looks more like the job description or the job requirements of the new role you want. And then it looks a little bit better than staring at a job description and a blank page and thinking, I don't have any of this, because you do, everyone does, no matter what role you go, you get those transferable skills. That's why they're called transferable, because you can transfer them to every single job. So whether you were working as a waitress and you organized everyone that was eating there or drinking there on shift, that's organization, that's time management. If you were looking after other team members, that's management skills. So it all translates. You don't always have to have every single thing on a job description anyway. Women always try to get 100% of the job description or meet the job requirements, compared to men that will apply even if they don't have all of the requirements. But you don't have to, and people will be wowed by your CV and wowed by what you've done, such as a side hustle or such as reading books. I spoke to another girl who had a really, really in-depth conversation with someone at an interview that she didn't have all of the requirements for, but she mentioned that she'd read a book in the industry, and then they spoke about that book and they discussed everything that she'd taken from it and she found interesting, and she got the job. There's a lot of different things that you can do rather than just the traditional, I have XYZ, hire me. It's about how you pull your spare time into boosting your career. And there's so many ways to do that online in your spare time, starting side hustles, networking, anything. You can get your foot in the door anywhere, really. So all in all, if anyone isn't really feeling confident that their career relates to their degree and they don't know what to do, there are so many options out there. It's just not that widely spoken about.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think that's so cool that just her having the interest in the job field that she was going into was kind of not enough. Obviously, I'm sure she had loads of experience, but that was kind of the turning point. I think you're right. We do think about ticking the box on a job description, but it's not just about that. It's what else can you bring to the table that shows how invested you are in the job. So yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much. It's been really helpful.
No, it's been really great to talk about it. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to leave us a review and let us know who else you'd like us to interview. You can find out more about us by searching Her Own Boss Podcast on Instagram and LinkedIn.